Get this 11 to 1 weekdays on the Triple M network.
Mary, is Ross Noble?
Hello.
You've requested a phone topic today, Ross.
No.
We're going to do it. Obscurity.
We were talking on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Any conversation on the phone can end up in a segment on air. And obscure TV show.
Okay.
Good times.
You reckon you've got a few in the back
Oh,
pocket?
I'll tell you what, can I give you...
Oh, a bit of sizzle coming
Look
up.
what I've got here for you. Hey, I'll
What's
give you
this?
this now.
It's in a Ziploc bag.
I'm opening it up.
Something from the...
Two photographs for you.
Uh-oh.
What's the first
What
one?
are they, officer?
Oh,
it's Reg Varney and Bob Grant from on the set of On the Buses.
On the buses.
And it's got blue tack on the back. Where has this been?
That used to be on my office wall, and it can now go on your office wall, and it will be joined by a very young-looking pot kettle.
Oh, it's Mike Reed, a.k.a. Frank Butcher off EastEnders.
But a shot taken when he was 22 years of age before he lost his hair.
Are you sure, though?
Oh, yes.
That's a very
Oh,
suspicious
yeah.
airline.
He looks nice.
Yeah.
He's a nice man in that
In the
picture.
1970s.
Some applause and some gratuitous sound effects for Ross Noble, if you would, Mr. Marsland. He's already laying out a buffet. What are you up to, Ross?
I went to the 7-Eleven on
Yes.
the corner, and I thought I would buy a small buffet to see if, just to see whether Cavalier can control himself. Because I thought, it's fun being in here, but it would be extra fun. I thought I would get, like a full selection of food.
So he can eat his way through it all over the course of the hour.
Yeah, like how dogs kill themselves if they just left with and they just keep eating. And I want to put it to the test.
We'll find out.
Oh, he's onto the moose.
He started with the desserts.
You see?
Well, what's got me is it says spoon under lid. I thought, jeez, don't see that every day.
Yeah, that's actually one of the scene selections on Short Bus.
You quite enjoyed
Now,
that, Ross.
hang on a
couldn't help
second.
myself.
You went and rented Short Bus based on this show, did you?
I did, yeah, because I've been on tour and I've been listening to all of the podcasts.
Oh, that's dangerous.
So basically, I was getting hour after hour because the thing is, I'd listen sort of all at once,
Oh, dear.
on a 10-hour motorbike ride.
My God.
So I was just short bus all the time. I thought, I've got to have a look at this film, and I went and rented it.
And?
I'll tell you what, it doesn't disappoint. But the problem is, the problem that I've found with the short bus, it's not the imagery which is certainly
confronting.
Yes, and the worst thing is now, whenever I watch travel programs, like kind of Getaway and things like that, and you'll have some pleasant-looking young lady standing there, and they'll go, "And the beach is a short bus ride away," and it's just, and as soon as they say that, it's like, oh dear,
It's going to turn fruity.
Exactly.
That's a fact sheet I don't want to send in for.
I go there on my holidays. I mean, foreign food can turn your stomach at the best of times, but that's just. Would you like dressing with that? No.
Now, you say on your motorbike, the last time you were in here, you were, filming. Well, I don't know what it was, a series, a documentary. What has it turned out to be?
Who knows? It's at the moment, it's a large packing case, similar to ones that a sort of 18th century magician would put a lady inside, full of video-based information.
Right.
Which is hopefully going to be a series.
Now, I think you put out a call on this program for eccentrics or people working on mad projects.
Oh, just people that I could meet.
And how did that go?
Well, it wasn't quite what I expected.
No?
I just received thousands of emails from people just going, "Come to my house and get pissed."
And how many of those did you take up?
Very few. I think one, maybe. Yeah, I think none of them actually. But what did happen is as I was travelling around, what I hadn't sort of counted on was kind of people stopping in cars, screeching to a halt, and just going, "Come with me." And I go, "All right then." And sort of, there was one brilliant one where I was standing on a statue. It was a big fountain thing. I thought, I'll climb that. That looked good for my documentary. So I climbed up the top. And this woman screeched to a halt, and I thought she was like a local sort of, like a
Statue police.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Statue police.
Monument Squad.
Well, it's funny you should say that because have you heard of Richard DeVere and Schnorbitz the dog?
No.
Schnorbitz the dog. You know Mike and Bernie Winters?
Yes, I know Mike and Bernie.
Mike and Bernie Winters used to have this dog called Schnorbitz.
Right.
St. Bernard. And there was like 10 of them because he kept dying. And
They
sold the Schnorbitz name to a magician called Richard DeVere, right?
Right.
Who then does a magic act with Schnorbitz, which isn't the actual Schnorbits. It's just a dog called
He
Schnorbit.
doesn't saw a dog in half.
I've no idea. It saws the dog's leg off and then it just chews on it. And then that's wrong. And so there's a statue in Blackpool,
Right.
in England. There's a statue of Richard DeVere standing there, all like a magician. Look at me, I'm full of magic and mystery. But with a St. Bernard next to him, because he's bought the thing, there's this big statue. And I was climbing on that once in the middle of the night with a little man, 4 foot tall, and he climb it, who sounds very much like climb on it, I'll take your photo, get up there, don't worry, no one's going to. So I'm climbing on this thing, and then a fella turns up in a sort of a security van thing,
Yes.
and screeches to a halt, and it's outside a place called the Pleasure Beach, which is the it's a
Short bus ride away.
Indeed. It's like a theme park, like a sort of, and it's called the Pleasure Beach and roller coasters and stuff. And this guy pulls up. It's a very long-winded story for very little payoff, but it said he goes, "Oi, get down off there! You're not allowed to climb on Richard DeVere." Right? So I climbed out, and I noticed on the side of his van, because it's the Pleasure. It was called the Pleasure Police, which is the gayest sounding security.
Very tight
You're
uniforms.
not allowed to climb on Richard DeVere. So, yeah. But anyway, the woman that on the statue here, I was on the top of it,
Yeah.
and she said to me, she just went, "Oh, I know a bloke that serves pig's nipples in a restaurant." I was talking to him at the gig. She went, "I know this bloke. Come and eat them." So next thing you know, I'm in a closed down restaurant, like a restaurant that was shut for the day, with this man feeding me like sheep's brains and stuff.
And how were they? Was it high quality sheep's brains?
Absolutely disgusting. But
I just can't eat brains. To me, I always worry they might be still thinking as they're going down. What's happening to me? What's happening now?
or you do a bit of a poo, and it takes on a life of its own. Oh, that would be a great film. Wouldn't that be an excellent, like a sort of like in a mimic sort of a style? You know? Yeah, get that down.
Too many good ideas.
Somebody write that one down.
Too many good ideas, and we're under the watchful eye of a photograph of Frank Butcher from EastEnders that Ross has brought in. Have you got a bit of Frank Butcher there? That's him.
I love you, you balmy horse. You don't need the sound effects. I'll just do it.
Gratuitous Frank Butchers and more on the way. Now, off here, Ross is telling me we're talking about great British comedy duos of the 80s.
Yes.
And you mentioned both Cannon and Ball and Little and Large. Now, can I ask, are those like their real names? Was it just a coincidence
Yeah.
that someone who's named Cannon hooked up with someone called Ball?
That's the only way it happened. Yeah.
Surely not.
Well, apparently, I think Cannon and Ball were both welders.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I love about all those kind of 80s comedy. Like anyone that came from the UK that was a duo, they all met in factories.
Right.
So like there's kind of like usually one of them is the funny bloke and the other one's like, you know, the fella that used to like hand him the oxyacetylene.
And you're telling me now that both Little and Large and Cannon and Ball are now Christian evangelists.
Yeah, they've found the Lord and they
Right.
travel around doing like exactly the same act, but it's all been tweaked for a sort of a Christian.
So on Sunday morning, you can instead of going to church, we can go off to see Cannon and Ball.
Yeah, and
Fantastic.
it's it's that whole sort of, can I sing me song? And that whole no, you cannot. I'm going to do a nice hymn for the nice ladies and gentlemen. Oh, come on, Tommy, let me sing a song. No, I'm going to sing about our Lord Jesus. But I want to sing all of that.
And what about Hale and Pace? When will they be converting? Do you think?
Oh well, Hale and Pace. Yeah, they're Scientologists.
Of course they are. They come out here a fair bit. They're always on the tour.
I went and saw them live, Hale and Pace.
Did you just?
Yeah. Well, you see, this is the great thing. Like in the UK, you can all of those people that you saw on the television for years, kind of they're still at it. They're still, hammering away, and you can just jump in the car, nip up to Blackpool, end of the pier, and you can see all these people going, "Hey, my wife, wow, so fat. How fat is my fat wife?"
Well, there was a lot of great footage recently because I think Bernard Manning might have died.
Yeah.
And he was he like the king of those guys?
Yes,
really?
he was. Yeah, he was he was the fattest, most racist, most horrible human being. But yeah, and he was always his big boss was Bernard Manning. You go, "Well, I've never died in my life. I've never done a show where I've died."
Right.
Liar.
Really?
Yeah. Absolute lies. He went to India. They did a documentary where they took him to India. Let's take the most racist comedian we can find. Take him to India. See if he can make people over there laugh.
How'd that go?
No.
Nothing. like,
It was very funny.
No sense of humour about themselves. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
that's the problem.
I take the piss out of everyone. You know.
It's equal.
Yeah. Horrible human being. But yes, he died. So.
Well, there was a show when I was a kid. Sorry, I'm segueing too early into obscure
that's
TV
all right,
shows.
son.
We got a show in New Zealand. Used to go out at about midnight on Fridays called the Wheeltappers and
Oh,
Shunters.
Wheeltappers and Shunters with Colin Crompton.
I don't know who it was. I was about 4.
With the hair combed right forward, Donald Trump style, and he would ring the bell. Ding, 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 ding.
And what
ding.
was it? That was like on location from a real working man's club up north?
Yeah,
or was that faked up in the studio?
No, I think they did that at the Embassy Club, actually. But yeah, no, that was... But there was another one. Did you have the good old days?
I don't know if we had Joker's Wild.
Oh, Joker's Wild, yeah, it was Barry Cryer.
Yeah, Barry Cryer and Les Dawson.
Yes.
But I don't know. What was the one you just said?
The good old days
What was that?
It was filmed in the Leeds City Varieties, which is like an old style music hall that's been in its original,
Right.
its original condition. But everyone in the audience had to dress up as if they were in Victorian costume, and in Victorian times, and then all the acts would come out.
did get that.
But they would do their normal acts, but just with the top hat
That's
on.
right. And everyone in the audience would come along in period gear. It's a
Yeah.
great idea.
But how would they have it at home? Did they have to sort of fashion
You'd have
you
to
know,
go
tea
and
towels
rent-
into wigs and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
Or-
yeah.
to rent some olden days gear, go along for a night in the theatre.
Yeah, and that's that's what's missing from television now. Unnecessary period comedy shows.
That's true. I just must quickly thank you, Ross, because I spoke to you on the weekend on the phone and our fridge had just blown up.
Oh yes.
Had a fridge for 20 years, finally carked it. And I'm telling Ross this, and he gives me some very, very good advice.
Well, the first thing he said, and this just shows a man who doesn't particularly live in the domestic world, I'm guessing.
Yes.
A man who's more obsessed with the television and movies. and I thought, what a touching thing. He went, I've got to get a new fridge. I don't even know where you'd get a fridge. I sat there going, there must be a fridge shop.
But what would you tell me what your advice was? Because it was brilliant advice.
My advice, because this happened to us, we bought a new fridge. Make sure, because you can get all these fancy, fancy fridges. Make sure you get one that holds your fridge magnet.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of them are made out of this silvery material now.
Yeah.
It's not fridge magnet
What,
compatible.
magnet repellent?
And Ross tells me on the phone, I've never heard a man sound sadder. He goes, because we've got a drawer full of discarded fridge magnets at our place now. Sounded very disappointed.
Because I would buy I've got some of the most amazing fridge magnets from all around the world.
Have you?
Well, why take photographs when you can just buy it already done in a magnetic form?
And what's going to hold your pizza menus up there on the side of the fridge?
But in England, we don't have, this was the thing that I got very excited about when I first came to this country, is the fact that we do, you know how you get magnets with the names of businesses on?
Yes, yeah.
We don't have that in the
Yeah,
UK.
yeah.
There's no unsolicited magnets dropping through your door. So when I discovered what people give you free fridge magnets,
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter what's on the fridge magnet. It's just, you know what I did? I took some of those free fridge magnets, took them back to the UK. Put them on the fridge back there. So he had I think it was Wollongong noodle box with the just on the fridge. Thank you very
Fantastic.
much.
Well, the wife went out and she knew what she was doing and she bought us a fridge. And look at this. I'm looking through the instruction book. This fridge we've got goes into Sabbath mode.
Wow.
Presumably for the Jewish
can-
refrigerator customer.
Different religious settings. Can you set it to kosher, where it instantly koshers all your food?
Well, look at this. When the product is in Sabbath mode, the light will not operate when the door is open. The door alarm will not operate. The display will not be illuminated. Opening the door will not affect the compressor or fans. But it's still on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still freezing stuff. I mean, is the Lord making that sort of differentiation? As long as they've got the light off, I mean, they can still have the fridge on. They can still use electricity to power the fridge, but if the light's on, I'm not going to be happy.
Gotta draw the line.
That's fantastic. I love that. Like, I don't believe in religion. I think it's nonsense, but that's great. Is there a little drawer where you can keep the body of Christ? Just open it up. Little wine dispenser. Just a thing for wafers and that. Is there that'd be a nightmare though. Surely, like with Passover or Lent. Lent, it won't accept any food. So.
You can't open it. That is fantastic. Well, thanks for your fridge advice, Ross.
Sound advice.
Very good advice when you're going to buy a new fridge. Take a fridge magnet with you
Yep.
to see if they're magnetised. Wife did that and apparently looked very suspicious on the security cameras going up to every fridge and just testing it with a magnet. But solid advice.
But which one did she choose?
Oh, which one did she take? I don't
Because
know. Would have
that's
had a Labrador.
It says a lot about you. You know.
Does
Oh,
it?
you got a Labrador fridge magnet.
Yeah, I think it's one. It's the head of a Labrador. There you go.
It's got to be done.
It's expanding. It's
Yeah.
an
And
expanding.
is there
fridge
room underneath the bottom of the fridge for the dog to get the face in to get the crumbs out?
magnet. Oh, yeah. Well, see, when the old fridge went, all the crumbs were vacuumed away. Dog not very happy.
Well, you know that Labrador that was crossing the road in the Tour de France
Yeah.
was going after a crumb
Oh,
underneath
bet
the
it
thing
was.
under a fridge.
That was a hefty lab.
was
That bike came off second best. Did you see that footage?
I did. yeah.
It was very. My wife burst into tears literally when she saw
But
that
the dog
footage.
didn't look bothered.
No,
The
it's just-
dog looked a little bit pleased with itself. The dog looked like it had gone.
It's a good one.
Yeah. But surely, so what, you got rid of the fridge?
Yeah,
The
well,
other-
they
other
take
fridge.
the old fridge away.
You see, what you should have done there, right? Couple of bricks, put the old fridge on top of the brick, out the back. Every morning, loaf of bread, scatter some crumbs under the fridge.
Lovely.
and
dog.
then- and it's the dog's in heaven.
Lovely exercise.
See, I didn't think. But enough fridge talk. We're here to talk obscure TV shows from the past that maybe people have forgotten or only half remember. For example, one of our listeners has sent one in somewhere. Where is it? Oh, hang on. Frank Patterson. That's a real name. Oh, no, that's Sea Patrol. Someone's called in about Sea Patrol. Do you ever see that show,
I
Rob?
haven't seen that yet.
This
no.
is sort of slightly different topic, but a good one nonetheless. Why is it on Sea Patrol, where they have the most up-to-date equipment and modern communication systems, yet in the Navy comms room with Steve Bisley, you can hear typing, shing, someone's just put typewriting in the background.
Maybe we don't know yet, but Angela Lansbury is in there doing some
The
sort
next
of sea disaster she wrote, and she's just in there because she never upgraded, or even possibly Stephen J. Cannell.
Oh, yes.
From
the
end of
logo at the end. Rips out the sheet of paper, flutters through the air into the form of his own initials.
Yeah,
What about Ubu Productions for
Sit,
Family
Ubu,
Ties?
sit.
Oh, yeah.
Good dog. Ruff.
yeah, great one.
And I love when they muck around with it, like the Gracie Films one at the end of The Simpsons. You always wait to see if there's going to be like a Mr. Burns instead of the normal.
I made this.
Oh, that's you. Who does that?
Is that the Drew Carey show? Do they do that?
I made
Or
this.
I made this.
Mad
What,
About You?
have you got one of those? Like at the end of your extremely long and highly recommended randomist DVD,
I put the DVD on, put it on the randomizer.
Oh yeah.
it has a
So
randomizer.
baffling. Ooh, good fun, but wow.
4 discs, ladies and gentlemen.
It was like continuously walking into a conversation that was halfway through with Ross, going, all right,
Yeah.
I'm here.
I recommend you put it on as you go to sleep, like a hypnosis tape. Just put it on, just let it all drift in.
Wake up going,
Yeah.
Angry Panthers, what?
Yeah.
But you need a logo at the end, just you ripping out the paper from the typewriter.
Yeah, exactly.
You want a statue? That'd
Yes,
be nice. You
yeah.
can.
Hey,
Yeah.
enough about the end bits. Here's the email I was looking for. This is from Matt Bonnell. He remembers a 70s cop show from the US called Holmes and Yo-Yo. It was an everyday buddy cop premise. The fantastic twist was Yo-Yo was a robot.
That's a good idea.
Buddy Cop's one of them, a robot, Carl Stefanovic style. Only ran 13 eps, according to Matt. See, that's the kind of stuff we're looking for. Can you remember any, Ross?
My favourite obscure one, I don't know if you got it over here, was the Bottle Boys.
Now, what was that?
Well, it was a sort of poor man's on the buses.
Oh, that was
Wow.
already fairly poor man's.
It's basically the music used to go milk, eggs, and butter, got 'em all on the float. Anything you want, love, just leave me a note. Because there's a knock, a ring, when you hear the noise of the rattles of the bottles of the bottle boys.
And who were the Bottle Boys? They were milkmen.
They were milkmen and working on the premise that, you know, on the buses they had to go out.
Yes.
Like that, well, they were on the bus and then all the ladies would come and get on board.
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
it was like all the ladies came to them.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, you know, who is more sexually active
Well,
than a milkman? A 1970s milkman.
Going by British comedy shows, the people who get the most sex are firstly the Swedish, for some reason.
Swedish au pairs.
Window cleaner.
Window cleaners, and then the milkman, who's always rat-a-tat-tat. Oh,
Yeah, right.
hello, missus, in we
Morning,
go.
morning, and the lady there in a sort of always a little bit of a fur, you know, just round the top there, with like a boa type.
A nightie
Yeah,
with a boa.
Yeah, feathery top nightie.
How long must it take the milkman to do his rounds?
Oh, exactly. That's
so
why
much
there's no
sex.
That's why there's no milkman anymore.
All shagged out.
Yeah, all curdled and just. Yeah, and the Bottle Boys used to knocking on doors and stuff. But I seem to remember it was kind of studio based.
Oh,
So
no.
it was kind of like the same front door, the every time. Yeah.
Well, that is the kind of thing we're looking for, listeners. Shows that you can, maybe you think you dreamt it. Maybe it wasn't even a real show.
Yeah.
Just on the very edge of your memory. We want to hear about him. Ross Noble is with us. I just heard him say this sentence off air. Quote, I just bought all the MacIvers on DVD. All of them, Ross.
All of them.
Every
Yeah.
series.
I believe they're on special offer at a popular video emporium.
They just, there's an offer you can't resist.
But the real question, Ross, is have you started your LOLO collection?
You know, if only there was some sort of offer, you know?
Well, what about shows? These are shows people have heard of. We want shows that people barely remember. Who's got one, Ed?
Hi, John.
Small Wonder.
Oh, now
Oh, yeah,
Richard
yeah.
Marsden often talks about Small Wonder. Do you remember that one, Ross?
Yeah, with a really sort of scary-looking girl.
Yeah, she was.
Terrifying.
An android they used to shove in the wardrobe at the end of the night and turn her off.
And this was a comedy show.
Yes, about 20 years ago. So.
And what sort of stuff did the Small Wonder get up to?
Trying to pretend that their daughter wasn't an android.
That's right.
That's right, and I think there might have been some robots experiencing real emotion towards the end of
Oh, yeah.
Well, we
About
hate
the
that. We
23
hate crying
minute mark.
robots on this show, Ross.
Oh, Bicentennial Man, one of the greatest films ever made. Come on.
And why did they have a robot daughter?
I think the father worked
Yes.
at some electronic company.
That's right. He invented it. I remember that.
The
Hang
trouble
on.
is, if you did have a robot daughter, the temptation to stick fridge magnets to her face, it would just be so...
Overwhelming.
Well nigh irresistible.
Hello, Paul.
Willing and Able from the 1980s.
Now, this is an Australian one. This was two detectives. Who played them?
I have absolutely no idea. Just some rubbish that was on the mid-80s about two
think you're-
scammers, which I thought they lived on a houseboat. Could be wrong.
Oh, right, scammers, not necessarily detectives.
Cops on a houseboat.
It was Shane Withington and Grant Dodwell, both from, I think, Country Practice.
Oh,
recreating-
really? God, your memory's better than me about it. It's just garbage, absolute garbage.
Was there low speed barge chasing? 'Cause that'd be great, wouldn't it?
I'd like to think
He's
so.
getting away. Oh, there's a lock.
Unbelievable. Just one other thing, Ross.
Yep.
That I made this thing was 1013 Productions at the end of the X-Files.
Oh, of
Oh,
course,
the
we should have known the X-Files fans would be onto
Good
that.
work. Oh,
Very
I'll
nice.
be resting easy tonight.
Done well, Paul.
How
No,
much
thanks, guys.
good
There-
stuff.
There
Who-
was David Essex. You know
Yes.
David Essex,
Yeah.
the popular singer. He had a show for a while around a sort of a canal. If you're talking canal-based shows, I'm not talking Stephen J. Canal. But he had a show where he played a bit of a ladies' man lochkeeper. He used to wink at the ladies on the barges. But that's just a side.
How did they pitch that to him? David, we've got the shot in the arm your career
But
needs.
he used to wear like a sort of like a neckerchief sort of a thing. And he's like, oh, hello there. It's a lovely lady on a barge.
And he would touch them with a barge pop. As it
Yeah.
were. Finally, that phrase made sense. Have we got another?
Hello, Helen.
Do you remember by any chance a show called Hammy Hamster and His Adventures by the Riverbank?
No.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, this was a real hamster
Yeah.
that they used to put into a boat.
Yeah.
And it was clear that they went through about 1,000 hamsters a day, and it
That
would
is
float.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because only one other person, apart from my brother and I, remember the show, and I was starting to think that, I'd
Yeah.
imagined it somehow.
They're the best ones. And what would the hamster do?
He went on the river and he just had little adventures. I mean, I was pretty little when it was on, but it always stuck in my mind.
I think the answer to that is he would look terrified in whatever situation. 'Cause, it was clearly like he was sleeping, and they would go, "Oh, what's Hammy up to now?" Put him in a boat, and he's obviously like, "Right, shake him." What? Where am I? Huh? Yeah,
That constitutes an adventure.
yeah, that was.
And could he talk, Helen? Was it?
Oh, look, I can't remember. I don't think so. It was like a sort of a narration over the top, like your Thomas the Tank Engine type thing. Yeah.
Well, and I see Ringo Starr has been, because I know Richard's been trying to master the Ringo Starr impression all year.
beautiful Ringo.
He's been boned.
Is that
from
right?
somebody else taken over.
And the Fat Controller's not fat anymore.
Oh.
He's
Slimmed
this is the
down.
Thing. Yeah, they just call him like the Controller.
No.
But the way to get Ringo Starr,
Yeah.
the way to get Ringo Starr is to say that Thomas and Percy jumped into the station.
Is that the
That's
one?
that's
Give
the
that a go, Rich. Come
Go
on.
on.
Thomas and Percy jumped into the station.
Oh, it's getting closer.
better.
It's less Peter Harvey than it has been in the past.
Hello, Rob.
Show called Star Blazers.
Oh, what was that?
It was like an anime type cartoon series,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, it was it was pretty wacky. I remember seeing the first episode and going, "Oh, I can't believe this." But it was like a battleship in space, but it was round at the back, so it had a normal spaceship back thing. And it had cannons and all the whole gear, and it was just so ridiculous.
Battleship in space.
Sounds great.
And I had, like this wave motion gun, and there was all these different characters, and we ended up liking it after a couple of weeks. But
You gave it a couple of weeks.
Were you trapped in your flat?
Well, pretty much, yeah. It was one of those after-school deals, you know.
That's fair enough.
Wow.
Well, thanks, Rob.
I
Track that one down.
I remember Help, It's the Hair Bear Bunch. That was the one that kept us trapped in our
was that?
bedroom. Oh, it was wacky bears at the zoo taking on the evil zookeeper, who was inevitably, as it was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon in the 70s, voiced by Paul Lind. Mr. Peevely,
Yeah.
I think was his character.
Really?
Yeah. Who have we got on the line?
Hello,
Ed?
Paul.
It was in the 80s, an old American series about a detective and somehow makes someone out of a computer and he becomes his sidekick.
Oh, is this the one Holmes and Yo-Yo that someone was talking about earlier?
No, it was more like it looked like a Tron. It looked like a offspin from Tron. And the car with fluoro lights around it. And he used to turn the corners really quick and the detective would splat against the side window and no one knows. No, I haven't found anyone who can remember it.
This isn't Automan, is it?
Automan. Any takers for Automan?
It might be Automan.
Yeah, that used to have a very quick turning car. It could do 90-degree angles.
And did they have a Commodore 64 at the start? That's where he was made from.
Oh, now you're pushing it.
Well, we know Tron style could be Automan with a Commodore 64 at the beginning. We'll get our researchers onto that.
Thank you very much.
Have we got time for one more?
Yes. Hello, Lisa.
I've got a really obscure one. Does anyone remember BJ and the Bear?
Very much. It was sort of the TV version of Every Which Way But Loose,
Yeah,
with a
pretty
truck
much.
driver and an orangutan.
Yep, BJ McKay.
BJ McKay.
Yep, and Sheriff Lobo.
Oh,
Sheriff Lobo.
Sheriff Lobo. That's a separate show, is it? Or
No. He was in the first and second series.
but he got his own spin-off.
After that, he got his
he
own
did.
series.
Yeah, it was
He
as
did.
ill-conceived as the Enos spin-off from Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, while I was actually waiting to speak to you guys, I had a look on the computer, and there's actually a BJ McKay fan club.
That is unlikely, but I'm assuming that's true.
There's not enough monkey-based shows anymore.
This is absolutely right, Ross.
Because in about 1980, they brought all these like laws in about like mistreatment of monkeys and stuff. And it went from being like your monkey-based show, that was the cheapest show you could get. People would go, "Oh, monkeys, they're cheap. No, don't have to worry about. It's not like kids where you have to, And then
Feed
all of
them.
a sudden, they stop bringing in all these laws. Don't get monkeys dressed up. Don't make them drive.
No more
cars,
roller
blah,
skating.
blah blah blah. Which quite frankly, and then now for monkeys. You can't.
They've got a union.
We're living in an anti-monkey nanny state, is what it
And
is.
you chimps, right? You want to use a chimp in a TV production? Can't use 1/3, just because they turn bad. They turn bad.
Really?
Yeah, because they get all fruity in that, and then they start.
They get on the crystal meth.
There aren't any working chimps outside of America. Do you know that?
Wow.
Yeah. Rhesus monkeys. Yes, I have worked with a rhesus monkey. Yes, I have. And but again. To get to a certain age, that's it. And the amount of restrictions on,
Can't dress them up.
exactly, monkey hijinks.
Well, that was the good old days where you
Yeah.
could do what you want with a monkey on television.
Exactly. The good old days where you could do what you want with a monkey. I know I start sounding like John Laws or something, but I remember the days when you could do what you like with a monkey.
John Laws is retiring, and I'd like to think you'll be throwing your hat in the ring, Ross Noble.
Certainly will.
Where are you off to, Ross?
I'm back to the UK. I won't return until the end of the year.
Oh,
Possibly
well.
next year.
And what are you up to in the
Yes,
UK?
I'm going back to do some hilarious stand-up comedy shows.
Very
That's
nice.
what I do. Think of me as a human can of worms that can be brought in and opened for your pleasure.
Well, I'll tell you what is a can of worms, and that's the 4-disc set that is Randomest. It's a beauty. You can start watching it now, and you'd still be watching it when Ross gets back from the
Absolutely
UK.
right.
Yeah.
And now I understand it's meant to be at a reasonable price.
It is, but I've noticed that a lot of shops have decided that because it's a few discs, they've bumped it up. So,
Oh, well.
So shop around, or buy it on the World Wide Interweb.
You could do that.
Yeah, all my other ones are available on the interweb.
Yes, there's Sonic Waffle and even earlier Unreal Time. It's all Ross Noble Gold.
Yeah, good times.
You've got to get into that. And I believe, I know we're not allowed to say too too much, you might be popping up on Thank God You're Here in coming weeks.
Yeah, no, I am on Thank God You're Here.
Very nice. Cat's out of the bag. Thanks for coming in, Ross. Too much fun.
You'll
and
get to see me push my crotch into Cavalier's leg.
Oh, well.
Oh, and also you'll see me slip a few little Get This references into
Oh,
the
that is always nice when a guest does that. There's a treat. Coming weeks on Thank God You're Here. Thanks for coming in. Thanks to everyone who called. And I believe Matty D has bagged up a key phrase.
Milk, eggs and butter, got 'em all on the float. Anything you want, love, just leave me a note. Cause there's a knock, a ring, when you hear the noise of the rattles of the bottles of the bottle boys.
Get this, it's blown out to 2 hours, 11 to 1 weekdays on the Triple M network.